When stars fall silent, the grand chamber of the Galactic Federation fell silent as Ambassador Vrental approached the central podium. His normally iridescent scales had faded to a dull gray, a sign of extreme distress among the Araxian people. The curved walls of the chamber, adorned with the emblems of 1,000 peaceful civilizations, seemed to bend inward under the weight of his news. "Honored representatives," Vrental began, his voice trembling despite his efforts to appear composed. "I come before you with grave tidings." With a gesture of his three-fingered hand, he activated the holographic display at the center of the chamber. The image showed a beautiful azure planet with swirling white clouds and lush continents. Then the image changed. The same world, now scarred with massive black wounds, its oceans boiling, its atmosphere choked with ash and smoke. Massive ships resembling obsidian shards hovered above the devastation. Gasps echoed throughout the chamber. Some representatives covered their sensory organs. Others turned away entirely. "This was Araxia III, our most prosperous colony," Vrental continued. "3 cycles ago, it fell to the Void Collective. 2 more of our worlds have fallen since." The word Void Collective sent murmurs rippling through the assembly. Most younger species looked confused, but the elder representatives appeared stricken. "The death toll stands at 4 billion, Vrental said, his voice breaking. "Our defense fleet has been obliterated. Our evacuation ships hunted down. We estimate that our homeworld will be targeted within 14 standard cycles." High Chancellor Mila, the elected leader of the Federation, rose from her seat. Her translucent body glowed with a soft blue light, the color of concern among her kind. "Ambassador Vrental," she said gently, "the Federation shares your grief, but you must understand our position. The Federation has maintained peace for 12,000 years through diplomacy and cooperation. We have no standing military force. Our member species evolved on gentle worlds where violence is unnecessary and unknown." "Then we are doomed," Vrental said simply, his scales losing even more color. From the back of the chamber a figure stood. Unlike the willowy, delicate frames of most representatives, this being stood on 2 sturdy legs with a solid frame and defined musculature. His skin was brown, his hair dark and closely cropped. He wore a simple blue uniform with a patch on the shoulder, a circle of stars surrounding a blue and green planet. "High Chancellor," he called, his voice carrying clearly across the chamber. "Earth can help." Every eye, optical sensor, and sensory appendage turned toward him. "Commander David Chen," Chancellor Mila acknowledged, her glow shifting to a cautious yellow. "Earth joined our Federation barely 8 months ago. This is not the time for your species to seek political advantage." Commander Chen walked forward, his footsteps heavy on the polished floor. The other representatives unconsciously leaned away, an instinctual response to the presence of a being from what the Federation classified as a death world. "With respect, Chancellor," Chen said, standing beside the diminished Araxian ambassador, "I'm not seeking advantage. I'm offering genuine assistance. Earth maintains a defense fleet of 76 combat vessels that can be ready to deploy within 24 hours. The chamber erupted in shocked exclamations. Most Federation species possessed no weapons more dangerous than mining tools. Even those with defensive capabilities maintained only small security forces. The concept of a dedicated military was viewed as primitive and savage. "Warships?" gasped a representative from the Ethereum conclave. "You built warships when you knew the Federation's stance on weapons of mass destruction?" Chen remained calm. "Earth wasn't part of the Federation when we built our fleet. We developed it to protect ourselves from unknown threats. And now it seems those threats are very real." Chancellor Mila raised all 4 of her limbs for silence. "Commander Chen, your species comes from what our scientists classify as a Class 12 death world, a planet so inherently hostile that it produces naturally aggressive species. Your people evolved fighting predators, natural disasters, and each other. Now you propose unleashing that capacity for violence in Federation space?" Chen turned to Vrental. "Ambassador, tell me honestly, how bad is the situation?" Vrental's voice barely carried beyond the podium. "We have lost 23 colony worlds. The collective destroys everything. They harvest all organic matter. and strip planets to their cores. They leave nothing behind but dead rocks. If they reach our homeworld, my entire species faces extinction. Chen turned back to the Chancellor. This isn't about politics or violating principles. This is about survival. Yes, Earth is a death world, as you call it. Our planet challenged us at every turn with storms, earthquakes, predators, diseases, and resource scarcity. We fought each other in countless wars. He paused, looking around the chamber. It's not something we're proud of, but it means we know how to face enemies like the Void Collective. We understand conflict in a way peaceful species cannot. The chamber had fallen completely silent. The Araxians need help, Chen continued. Earth can provide that help. Our ships are ready. Our personnel are trained. We only need permission to enter Araxian space. Chancellor Mila's glow had shifted to white, the color of deep contemplation. If we allow this, there must be conditions, strict rules of engagement, Federation oversight, and when the crisis ends, your fleet must immediately return to Earth space. Agreed, Chen said without hesitation. Vrental stepped forward, his scales regaining a hint of color. I accept Earth's offer of aid. As ambassador of the Araxian Confederation, I formally request the assistance of Earth's defense forces against the Void Collective. Chen nodded and touched a small device on his wrist. Admiral Helena Vasquez, this is Commander Chen. The Araxian Confederation has requested our assistance against an aggressive species known as the Void Collective. The Federation has approved our intervention. Recommend immediate deployment of Defense Fleet Alpha. A woman's clear voice answered, Understood, Commander. Alpha Fleet is on standby. We can jump to Araxian space in 8 hours. All ships are combat ready. Proceed, Admiral, Chen said. Earth stands with Araxia. As Chen ended the communication, he looked at the stunned faces around him. For thousands of years, you viewed humanity's capacity for combat as a flaw, something to fear or pity, but today that same capacity may save billions of lives. His eyes met the Chancellor's. The Deathworlders are coming to help. Outside the Council chamber, news of Earth's decision spread rapidly across the Federation. For the first time in recorded history, the peaceful species of the Galactic Federation would see what humans, forged on a death world, could accomplish in battle. Admiral Helena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the EDF Dauntless, the flagship of Earth's Alpha Fleet. At just over 2 kilometers in length, the Dauntless represented the pinnacle of human military engineering, a vessel designed to project, power, and survive the harshest combat conditions. Through the massive viewports, Vasquez could see space filled not with empty blackness but with the lights of 75 other human warships, from nimble frigates to ponderous dreadnoughts. This was the largest military force humanity had ever sent beyond the solar system. Vasquez was tall with olive skin and dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. At 53, she had spent more than 30 years in service, fighting pirates and rogue mining colonies in the scattered conflicts that had followed humanity's expansion to the stars. She had never lost a battle. Admiral, said Captain Rivera, her executive officer, all ships report ready for jump. Thank you, Captain. Vasquez nodded. Status of the Void Collective forces? Rivera brought up a holographic display showing the Araxian home system. Dozens of red markers moved steadily through space. The collective is here, in the Helios system, 1 jump from the Araxian homeworld. They've already destroyed the outer colonies and are moving toward the main inhabited planets. Population at risk, approximately 11 billion Araxians. Vasquez studied the display carefully. How many collective vessels? We count 192, Admiral. They outnumber us nearly 3 to 1. The bridge fell quiet. Everyone understood what those numbers meant. Should we wait for reinforcements from Earth? Asked a young tactical officer. Vasquez shook her head. The rest of the fleet couldn't arrive for at least 2 weeks. The Araxians don't have 2 weeks. The bridge doors slid open as Commander Chen entered alongside a tall, willowy figure, Ambassador Vrental. The Araxian's eyes widened as he took in the bridge, with its hardened duty stations and armed personnel. Ambassador Vrental, welcome. Aboard the Dauntless, Vasquez said with a formal nod. Vrental moved forward slowly, studying the human crew. Unlike his own people, with their delicate frames and iridescent scales, these aliens wore uniforms designed for combat and moved with solid purpose. "You've brought so few ships," Vrental said, looking at the tactical display. "The Collective has nearly 200 vessels. They will overwhelm you." Vasquez smiled slightly. "Throughout human history, Ambassador, we've rarely enjoyed favorable numbers. We've learned to make do with what we have." She turned to Dr. Sanjay Patel, the fleet's chief xenobiologist. "Doctor, please brief the Ambassador on what we know about the Collective." Dr. Patel adjusted his glasses and brought up images of the Void Collective ships. The Collective vessels appear partly organic, living ships in a sense. They operate on a hive mind principle, sharing consciousness across all vessels. This is why their movements are so perfectly coordinated. Vrental nodded. "Our scientists believe they share one consciousness. They think and act as a single entity, not as individuals. And that will be their weakness," Vasquez said firmly. She walked to the tactical display and highlighted several larger Collective ships. "The Collective moves as one because it is one. Cut off the head, and the body dies." "That's impossible," Vrental protested. "There is no head. They are all connected." "Our analysis of their movement patterns suggests these larger ships always remain protected in the center of their formation," Rivera pointed out. "They never engage directly. We believe these are their command nodes, the central processing units of their network." Vasquez nodded. "Our plan is simple. Divide their forces, isolate the command vessels, and destroy them." Vrental's scales paled. "The Collective cannot be divided. They move as one perfect unit." "On Earth," Vasquez replied, "we have an ancient saying, divide and conquer. It's time to introduce the Void Collective to human battle tactics." She turned to her crew. "Prepare for FTL jump, all hands to battle stations." Throughout the massive ship, alarms sounded. Crew members rushed to their positions. Fighter pilots ran to their craft. Marines checked their armor and weapons. Engineers monitored the massive engines and weapon systems. Vasquez activated the fleet-wide communication system, her voice reaching every human ship. "Men and women of Alpha Fleet, today we fight not for Earth but for our allies. Many of you joined the Defense Force to protect humanity. Today you will protect the Araxians." She paused, looking at Vrental. "We face an enemy that outnumbers us, but numbers alone don't determine victory. Skill, courage, and determination win battles. Show them what humans from a death world can do." A cheer rose across the fleet comm system. Vasquez settled into her command chair. "Jump to Helios system. Now." Space twisted around the fleet. Stars stretched into lines of light. And then with a flash, Alpha Fleet emerged in the Helios system. The view was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. The Void Collective filled space before them. Hundreds of obsidian ships moving in perfect unison, attacking a small group of Araxian civilian vessels attempting to evacuate a nearby space station. "Enemy has spotted us," reported Rivera. "They're breaking off their attack on the civilian ships. All Collective vessels are turning toward us." "As expected," Vasquez said calmly. "They recognize us as the greater threat. Phase 1. Deploy fighters and begin electromagnetic disruption." From the belly of the human capital ships, smaller craft poured out. Fighters and attack bombers, fast and agile. They flew in tight formations, heading directly toward the Collective armada. Vrental gasped. "They're flying directly into the Collective formation. They'll be destroyed." Chen shook his head. "Watch." The human fighters moved with incredible speed and precision, weaving between the massive Collective ships. Some fired conventional weapons, causing explosions across the organic hulls, but others carried special payloads. "EMP strikes away," called a voice over the comm. Bright blue pulses erupted across the Collective formation. The electromagnetic pulses did no physical damage, but they disrupted the biological signals between Collective ships. For the first time in recorded history, the perfect formation of the Void Collective began to falter. "It's working," Vrental exclaimed, his scales flashing with bright color. Phase 2, ordered Vasquez. Cruiser group, move into position, target the command ships. 5 human cruisers advanced, their main guns aimed at the largest collective vessels now exposed as their protective screen fell into disarray. Firing solution ready, reported Rivera. Accelerator cannons locked on target. Fire, Vasquez ordered. 5 lances of blindingly bright energy shot across space. The hypervelocity projectiles, accelerated to near relativistic speeds, struck with devastating force. The first command ship erupted in a spray of organic matter and metal. The effect on the collective was immediate and dramatic. Dozens of ships suddenly stopped moving, drifting aimlessly in space. Direct hit, called Rivera. Collective coordination is breaking down in Sector 4. Again, Vasquez ordered. Target the next command ship. As the battle raged, Vrental watched in amazement. The humans were outnumbered, but they fought with a skill and ferocity he had never imagined possible. Their ships moved in complex patterns, their weapons struck with deadly precision, their fighters swarmed like insects around the larger collective vessels. "You're winning," he whispered. "Not yet," Vasquez replied, her eyes fixed on the battle. "This is just the beginning. The collective will adapt. They'll learn from this defeat." She looked at Vrental, her face serious. "Today we win the first battle, but the war has just begun." Outside, another command ship exploded. The collective formation collapsed further, individual ships now easy targets for the human fleet. The battle for Helios had been won, but as Vasquez had predicted, the war was only beginning. The Deathworlders had shown what they could do, and the galaxy would never be the same. When Deathworlders Dance Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez tightened her grip on the controls of her Raptor-class fighter as it streaked through the debris-filled space around Araxia Prime. 6 weeks had passed since Earth's Alpha Fleet had arrived in Araxian space, and the war against the Void Collective had evolved into a grueling campaign of attrition. The initial victory at Helios had been followed by 3 more major engagements as the collective regrouped and adapted. Each battle had been harder than the last. The humans had won each time, but at an increasing cost. Of the original 76 ships in Alpha Fleet, only 54 remained operational. "Talon Squadron, form up on me," Rodriguez ordered into her helmet comm. "We've got new orders from the Dauntless." 4 other fighters moved into formation around her. They had started as a squadron of 12, now they were 5. "What's the plan, Lieutenant?" asked Ensign Kowalski, the youngest pilot in the squadron. At 23, he had already seen more combat than most military pilots from Earth's past wars had experienced in their entire careers. "The collective is changing tactics," Rodriguez replied. "They're adapting to our EMP attacks and adjusting their formation to better protect their command ships. Admiral Vasquez wants us to find a weakness in their new defense pattern, the Void." Collective had indeed evolved. After losing 7 command vessels, the remaining collective had developed countermeasures. They now used light-based signals rather than their disruption-vulnerable biological communications. Their formations had become more complex, with specialized defense ships creating layered protection around their vital command vessels. "Look at that," said Kowalski, pointing to his sensor display. "They're communicating differently." Rodriguez checked her readings. The collective ships were using a new pattern of light pulses to coordinate their movements. The human EMP weapons were becoming less effective with each engagement. "They learn fast," Rodriguez admitted. "But so do we. New plan, we're going to create a distraction on their port flank. Morgan and Cheng use your heavy missiles to hit this section here. The rest of us will use the confusion to penetrate their inner defense line and target the command ship's propulsion systems." "That's a small gap to fly through," said Morgan, doubt evident in her voice. Rodriguez smiled inside her helmet. "We've trained in tighter spaces than that. The Martian canyons are harder to navigate than this." "True," Morgan laughed. "After the Olympus Mons run during training, this should be easy." The 5 fighters accelerated toward the collective formation. The enemy detected their approach. Dozens of obsidian ships turned to intercept them, launching clouds of small drone fighters. "Now," shouted Rodriguez. Morgan and Chung fired their missiles. The resulting explosions created a momentary gap in the collective's defense line. Rodriguez pushed her fighter to maximum acceleration, diving through the opening with Kowalski and Patel close behind. Warning alarms screamed as they narrowly avoided collisions with debris and enemy vessels. Then they were through, racing toward the massive command ship. Up close, it was even more alien. A vast organic construction pulsing with internal light, its outer hull covered in structures that resembled both technology and living tissue. Target those propulsion nodes, Rodriguez ordered. Fire everything you've got. The three fighters unleashed their remaining weapons. Explosions blossomed across the command ship's rear section. It began to drift, its movement erratic. Direct hit, Kowalski called excitedly. We've crippled it. Talon Squadron, this is Dauntless, came Admiral Vasquez's voice. Good work. Cruiser group is moving in to finish the target. Return to the ship for rearm and refuel. As they flew back toward the human fleet, Rodriguez had a clear view of the battle. Despite being outnumbered, the human ships were holding their ground. Their superior tactics and technology were making the difference. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Admiral Vasquez watched as another Void Collective command ship exploded under concentrated fire from 3 cruisers. Status report, she ordered. Captain Rivera's face was grim. We've destroyed 4 command ships in this engagement. The Collective. Forces are in disarray, but we've lost 3 more ships, Admiral. The destroyers Shenzhen and Johannesburg are heavily damaged. Casualties are significant. Vasquez nodded slowly. In the 6 weeks since the campaign began, nearly 5,000 human crew members had been killed or wounded. The cost of victory was mounting with each engagement. Beside her, Ambassador Vrental watched the tactical displays, his scales now permanently dulled from the stress of the ongoing conflict. I have never seen combat like this, he said quietly. My people have no concept of such sacrifice. This is what humans do, Vasquez replied. We protect our own, and now that includes the Araxians. A new alert sounded. Rivera looked up in surprise. Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting a massive energy signature entering the system. It's the Collective's primary hive ship. The tactical display updated to show a colossal vessel entering the system, at least 10 times larger than any Collective ship they had encountered so far. They're committing their central processing node, Vasquez said, her expression hardening. They've decided we're enough of a threat that they need to deal with us directly. Is that good or bad for us? Asked Commander Chen. Both, Vasquez replied. It means we've hurt them badly enough that they're willing to risk their most valuable asset. But that ship will be unlike anything we've faced so far. The new Collective vessel was indeed unlike anything they had seen. It resembled a massive black spider with elongated limbs extending from a central body. As it approached, the scattered Collective ships began to regroup around it, their formations becoming more coordinated and aggressive. They're linking with the hive ship, Rivera reported. Collective coordination is improving dramatically. Vasquez studied the tactical display, her mind racing through options. We can't win this battle with our remaining ships, she finally said. Not through conventional tactics. Then we retreat? Asked Vrental, his voice breaking. No, Vasquez replied. We change the game. Captain Rivera, prepare boarding teams. We're going to capture that hive ship. The bridge fell silent. Even among the battle-hardened human crew, the idea seemed impossible. Admiral, Rivera said carefully, the Collective ships have biological defenses against boarding. Their internal environments are toxic to most life forms, and they're defended by autonomous security drones. I'm aware of the risks, Captain, Vasquez replied, but our conventional weapons aren't enough against a target that size. We need to hit them from inside. She turned to Chen. Commander, this is where your diplomatic skills come in. I need you to coordinate with the Araxian scientists. We need every piece of data they have on Collective biology and internal ship systems. Chen nodded. I'll get right on it, Admiral. Vasquez addressed her crew. This will be the most dangerous operation any of us have ever attempted. I won't order anyone to volunteer for the boarding teams. This mission is strictly voluntary. Captain Rivera stepped forward. "I'll lead the first team, Admiral." One by one, officers around the bridge volunteered. Vasquez nodded, pride evident in her eyes. "Begin preparations immediately. We attack in 6 hours." 6 hours later, 12 transport ships approached the collective hive vessel under the cover of a massive fleet engagement. The transports were small and stealthy, designed to avoid detection as the main battle drew the collective's attention. Inside the lead transport, Captain Rivera checked his combat armor one last time. Around him, 30 Marines did the same, each equipped with the most advanced personal weapons and protection systems Earth could provide. "Remember the plan," Rivera said to his team. "We're aiming for what the Araxian data suggests is the central nervous system of the hive ship. Plant the quantum disruptors at the designated points, then get out before they detonate." The Marines nodded. All had volunteered, knowing the risks. Many had lost friends to the collective over the past weeks. 30 seconds to contact, called the pilot. Rivera activated his helmet comm. "Admiral, boarding team Alpha is in position." "Understood, Captain," came Vasquez's voice. "The fleet will maintain maximum pressure to keep their attention divided." "Good hunting." The transport ship made contact with the hive vessel's hull with a dull thud. Specialized cutting tools began boring through the organic metal exterior. "Breach complete," reported a Marine. "We have access." Rivera took a deep breath. "Let's move." The boarding teams poured into the collective vessel. The interior was like nothing they had prepared for, a nightmarish blend of organic tissue and mechanical components. The corridors pulsed with an eerie blue light, and the air was thick with a mist that their filters barely handled. "Life support holding," Rivera reported, moving to first objective. The teams encountered resistance almost immediately. Small drone-like creatures swarmed from side passages, attacking with mechanical precision. The Marines responded with disciplined bursts of fire, their advanced weapons tearing through the biological machines. "Keep moving," Rivera ordered as they pushed deeper into the ship. "Don't get bogged down." As they advanced, the resistance intensified. Larger combat drones appeared armed with energy weapons that could penetrate even the Marines' advanced armor. "Taking casualties," Rivera reported grimly as 2 Marines fell. "But we're approaching the first target point." Throughout the massive hive ship, 11 other human teams were fighting similar battles, pushing toward their designated targets. It was a desperate gamble, but it was working. The collective was being forced to divide its attention between the external fleet battle and the internal invaders. Rivera's team reached a vast chamber that pulsed with energy. In the center floated what appeared to be a massive brain-like structure, connected to the ship's systems by countless tendrils. "Target located," Rivera reported. "Planting first disruptor now." As a Marine moved forward with the device, the chamber came alive. With defenses, energy beams lashed out and waves of drones poured from hidden compartments. "Cover him," Rivera ordered, laying down suppressing fire. The Marine reached the central structure and attached the quantum disruptor, a device designed to create a cascading failure in the collective's neural network. As soon as it was in place, he activated the countdown. "Disruptor 1 is hot," he called. 10 minutes to detonation." "Fall back to extraction point," Rivera ordered. "Team 2, what's your status?" "Disruptor 2 in place," came the response. "Heavy resistance on our retreat path." One by one, the teams reported success, though several were taking severe casualties. The collective was marshalling everything. It had to stop them, but it was too late. The disruptors were in place. "All teams, this is Admiral Vasquez. Begin immediate extraction. Fleet is moving to support withdrawal." Outside, the human fleet had closed distance with the hive ship, drawing fire away from the extraction points where the boarding teams would emerge. It was a dangerous maneuver that put the remaining ships at risk, but Vasquez was determined not to leave anyone behind. Rivera's team fought their way back through corridors now swarming with collective drones. 3 more Marines fell before they reached their transport. "Team Alpha is aboard," Rivera reported as the last survivor was pulled into the ship. "Launching now." The transport detached from the hive ship, engines flaring as it raced away from the doomed vessel. Around it, other transports did the same, though several were destroyed by collective weapons before they could escape. 5 minutes to disruptor. Detonation, Rivera reported as his transport rejoined the fleet. Admiral Vasquez's voice was calm but urgent. All ships, maximum distance. Prepare for shockwave. The human fleet accelerated away from the hive ship, which was now firing desperately at the retreating vessels. Several more human ships took critical damage, but the majority managed to reach safe distance. Detonation in 3, 2, 1. Inside the collective hive ship, 12 quantum disruptors activated simultaneously. They didn't create a conventional explosion. Instead, they generated an energy pulse specifically calibrated to disrupt the neural patterns of the collective consciousness. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The hive ship's movements became erratic, its weapons firing randomly. The smaller collective vessels surrounding it fell into similar confusion, their coordinated attack pattern disintegrating into chaos. "It's working," Rivera said, watching through the transport's viewport. "The neural cascade is spreading through their entire network." On the bridge of the Dauntless, Admiral Vasquez turned to Vrental. "Now, Ambassador, tell your people it's time." Vrental activated a communication device. "This is Ambassador Vrental to all Araxian vessels. The signal is given. Execute Operation Rebirth." From hiding places throughout the system, hundreds of Araxian ships appeared. Not warships, but adapted civilian vessels now armed with hastily mounted weapons. They swarmed toward the disorganized collective, targeting the now vulnerable smaller ships. "The Araxians are engaging," reported Rivera, who had returned to the Dauntless Bridge, his armor scorched and damaged from the boarding action. "And so, do we?" Vasquez said. "All ships target remaining collective vessels, fire at will." The combined human and Araxian forces fell upon the crippled collective fleet. Without their central coordination, the once fearsome enemy was reduced to individual vessels fighting alone, and they had never evolved tactics for independent action. Within hours, it was over. The hive ship had imploded as its neural network collapsed, taking dozens of connected vessels with it. The remaining collective ships had been destroyed or driven off. The system was secure, but the cost had been enormous. Of the original 76 human ships, only 39 remained operational. Nearly 9,000 humans had died in the campaign. 2 weeks later, Admiral Vasquez stood once again in the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Federation. This time she was accompanied by her surviving senior officers, men and women who bore the physical and emotional scars of the conflict. High Chancellor Mila addressed the assembly. "The Federation owes a debt to humanity that cannot be easily repaid. The Araxian people would now be extinct if not for Earth's intervention. The Void Collective threat has been neutralized, though we must remain vigilant against their possible return." She turned to Vasquez. "Admiral, as agreed, your remaining ships will now return to Earth space." Vasquez stepped forward. "High Chancellor, members of the Federation, I stand before you not to seek praise or reward, but to propose a new path forward." She gestured to her officers. "These humans, and thousands more like them, left the safety of their homes to defend a species they had never met. They did so not because they love violence, as some in this chamber have suggested, but because they understand that sometimes standing against aggression requires sacrifice." Her voice carried clearly through the chamber. "Earth requests permission to establish a permanent defensive alliance with the Federation, not an occupation force but a cooperative security initiative that would combine human military experience with Federation diplomatic wisdom." Chancellor Mila's glow shifted through several colors. "You are proposing a fundamental change to the Federation's 12,000-year tradition of pacifism." "I am proposing survival," Vasquez replied simply. "The universe contains threats that cannot be reasoned with or appeased. The Void Collective was one such threat. There will be others." From his seat, Ambassador Vrental rose. His scales had regained much of their former luster. "The Araxian Confederation supports this proposal. We have learned that while peace is always the goal, the ability to defend that peace is equally important." One by one, other representatives stood to voice their support. Many had watched recordings of the battles, had seen humans sacrificing themselves to protect Araxian civilians. Their perception of Death Worlders had fundamentally changed. Chancellor Mila raised her limbs for silence. This proposal requires careful consideration. It represents a significant evolution in our understanding of galactic security. She paused, her glow stabilizing to a calm blue. But evolution, adaptation to changing circumstances, is the foundation of life itself. The Federation will establish a joint committee to develop this security initiative, with equal representation from Earth and founding Federation species. As the session concluded, Vasquez found herself approached by a group of young representatives from various species. "Admiral," said one, a willowy being with feathered skin, "my people have never understood the concept of voluntary military service. Why would anyone choose a path that risks their life?" Vasquez smiled slightly. An ancient human philosopher once said, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing." Humans join our defense forces not because we love fighting, but because we understand that sometimes fighting is necessary to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The representative considered this. "My species evolved on a world without predators or natural disasters. We never needed to develop the capacity for violence. But perhaps we need to develop the capacity for courage. That," Vasquez said, "is something humans would be honored to help teach." As she walked from the chamber, Vasquez looked out through a massive viewport at the stars beyond. For thousands of years, the Federation had viewed Earth's harsh evolution as a tragedy, creating beings hardened by struggle and familiar with violence. Now they were beginning to understand that those same challenges had forged humanity's greatest strengths: resilience, sacrifice, and the willingness to stand against impossible odds. The Death Worlders had come to help, and the galaxy would never be the same.